Hollywood gleams from a distance. Up close, it's a machine, loud, hungry, and always hungry for more. It makes legends. It unmakes them. The rules aren't written down, but everyone knows them. Stay in line, smile on cue, don't make the powerful uncomfortable. Break those rules, and the lights go cold. These five didn't just work in Hollywood, they challenged it. They spoke up, stood firm, loved loudly, or simply insisted on being seen as human. The response was swift and familiar. Blacklist, smear, exile, silence. Call it morality, call it politics, call it business. It feels the same when it lands on a life. This is the other history. Not the premieres and the statues, the pressure rooms, the closed doors, the whispered warnings. 5 stories, doubled in size to match the weight they carry. Dalton Trumbo, the highest paid screenwriter in Hollywood. A golden typewriter. A name on every lips-to-cigar whisper on the lot. Then came the subpoenas. Then came the rooms with microphones and flags. The House Un-American Activities Committee wanted confession dressed up as patriotism. Trumbo wouldn't bend, wouldn't name friends, wouldn't trade his conscience for a paycheck. Contempt of Congress, 11 months behind bars. A writer sentenced for ideas. When he got out, the phones went quiet. Doors that used to swing open didn't just close. They sealed, but the stories still poured out of him. He wrote under borrowed names, behind fronts, through shadows. Roman Holiday won an Oscar under someone else's signature. The brave one, too, credited to a ghost named Robert Rich. Audiences cheered. Studios cashed checks. Trumbo stayed hidden. 13 years as a rumor. Kirk Douglas changed that math. He put Trumbo's name on Spartacus and dared the town to blink. Otto Preminger did the same with Exodus. The spell cracked. The Blacklist staggered. Trumbo reemerged, older, scarred, unbowed. He didn't get those years back. Nobody did. Hollywood never said sorry. It never does. It just turned the page and pretended the ink stain wasn't there. But the words remained. The bathtub pages. The midnight pages. The pages written by a man who chose principle over permission and paid for it in silence. Charlie Chaplin. The little tramp made the world laugh. Then he made it think. That was the problem. Modern times poked at the machine. The great dictator pointed a finger at tyranny and dared to hope. In wartime America, that speech was a flare shot into the sky. J. Edgar Hoover took note. So did the pearl clutchers. So did the men who preferred jokes without ideas. They built a file on him. Thick. Every headline magnified. Every romance became evidence. Paternity suit. Mann Act charges. Acquittals ignored, innuendo amplified. Not a communist, they said, but un-American. What does that even mean? In 1952, he sailed to London for a premiere. While he was at sea, America slammed the door, revoked his re-entry permit. Imagine that. The man who embodied the dream on screen, locked out of the dream factory. He moved to Switzerland. The mountains were quiet. He kept making films, but something in him belonged to the streets of silent-era Los Angeles. 20 years in exile, then an invitation, an honorary Oscar in 1972. He returned, fragile and luminous. 12 minutes of applause, a penance paid in clapping. Guilt disguised as tribute. He smiled. We cried. The town pretended it had learned something. Maybe it did. Maybe it didn't. Chaplin's genius survived the witch hunts. But the cost was a wound that never quite closed. Orson Welles' boy genius with a hurricane in his head. Mercury Theater Wunderkind. War of the World's panic painter. Hollywood handed him a contract and final cut, like a dare. Citizen Kane at 25. A masterpiece wrapped in a grenade. William Randolph Hearst tried to bury it. Threats. Pulled ads. Theater chains looked away. Welles learned fast. In this town, power doesn't forgive mirrors. The magnificent Ambersons was butchered while he was away on another studio errand. His notes ignored. His vision clipped. It became a pattern. Projects stalled. Budgets sliced. Difficult, they said. Translation uncontrollable. He fled to Europe with a suitcase and a restless camera. Othello built from scraps. Chimes at midnight forged from stubborn brilliance. Touch of Evil recut by others. Years later, a version restored from his memos would prove he'd been right all along. He did wine commercials to fund dreams. Talk shows to buy film stock. The greatest director of his generation. Hustling. Still magnetic. Still burning. Not officially banned. Just starved of the oxygen a system gives to those who obey. They wanted a tamed prodigy. He stayed a storm. Hollywood likes genius when it's manageable. Welles refused the leash. The price was exile. The gift was work that still crackles with electricity. Hattie McDaniel, first black Oscar winner. A gold statue at a segregated table. She wore a blue gown and a brave smile. "I sincerely hope I shall always be a credit to my race and to the motion picture industry," she said. Then the room went back to business as usual. She could play maids. She could play cooks. She could play the roles that white Hollywood understood. Nothing more. She took the work. She made rent. She slipped subversion into stereotypes. Wit, warmth, a knowing glance that said she saw everything. The NAACP criticized her choices. The studios limited her choices. She was boxed in from both sides. On radio's Beulah, her talent shone. Even there, the character was a smiling servant. She kept going. Because what else do you do when you're the first, and the door behind you is heavy, and your shoulders are tired? When she died, she asked to be buried in Hollywood Cemetery. Denied. Race didn't end at the gates. Later, the cemetery built a monument, an apology carved in stone. Too late to matter to the woman who'd asked. The Oscar she donated to Howard University vanished decades later. Only recently did the Academy send a replacement for students to see. That's the story of Hattie in this town. Breakthroughs followed by erasures, honors followed by exclusions. She deserved 1,000 roles. They gave her one. She made it echo anyway. Roscoe, Fatty Arbuckle. Before the fall, he was bigger than Chaplin. A box office giant with a dancer's lightness. Then the party. Labor Day weekend, 1921, a hotel suite in San Francisco. Virginia Rapp fell ill. Panic. Rumors. Headlines that sold papers faster than truth could breathe. Hearst's empire feasted. District Attorney Matthew Brady chased the spotlight. Bambina Maud Delmont pointed a finger that couldn't hold up in court. 3 trials. 2 hung juries. The third not guilty. Not just acquitted, apologized to by the jury. A great injustice, they called it. Didn't matter. The damage was done. Will Hayes banned him to appease the mob. Later, ban lifted. The stink remained. Studios pulled his films. Exhibitors got cold feet. America had convicted him months before a courtroom ever spoke. He tried to rebuild. Directed under a new name, William Goodrich. There was still talent there, still timing, still heart. But the machine that once crowned him had no place for absolution. In 1933, he signed a new contract to headline again. A chance, a breath. That night he died of a heart attack at 46. Official cause, yes. But anyone who watched the smear campaign might call it something else. The first modern Hollywood scandal wrote the rulebook. Accuse loudly, repent quietly, never fully forgive. Arbuckle was the lesson. The industry learned it too well. Time moved on. Headlines yellowed. The film survived. The industry didn't apologize. It rebranded. New gatekeepers, same gates. We celebrate rediscoveries and comebacks, without asking why they had to be rediscovered at all.